Parents' Rights in Education was conceived in 2009 and became a tax-deductible nonprofit in 2011. In May of 2019, PRIE held its first soapbox event, America's Cultural Crisis. Should we stay or should we go? Author of Get Out Now was the keynote speaker. Mary Hassan's speech is featured on the PRIE website. We decided to have another soapbox, May 2nd of the following year, 2020, featuring Walt Heyer, author of Trans Life Survivors. 7 weeks beforehand, Oregon Governor Kate Brown declared a state of emergency to control the spread of the China virus. During the following year, in response to repeated emergency shutdown restrictions, PRIE rescheduled the event 4 times and changed the event venue 3. It was renamed the Northwest Safe Schools Summit, and more speakers were invited to present. The result was a day-long dive into the complex issues plaguing K-12 public schools. Because of the unrest and militant violent protests in Portland, Oregon, it was decided to move the location from the Portland airport to a venue in the suburbs. The venue owner was adamant PRIE not advertise the exact location until 24 hours in advance, so as to avoid possible negative attention caused by detractors and protesters. We are thrilled to share these videos from the first Northwest Safe Schools Summit in the hopes you will be enlightened and empowered to take action. Please watch them in order, as there is a natural progression you won't want to miss. Missie Carra is a wife and mother of 2 high school girls in Fort Worth, Texas. She worked as an oncology and hospice nurse for a number of years. In the fall of 2020, Missie volunteered to serve as Parents' Rights in Education Texas Director, and now dedicates her time to informing parents about the many issues we are covering during our Safe School Summit. Her expertise in research is evident in this presentation of the Playbook designed to embed comprehensive sexuality education and reproductive health care in every school district across America.
Thank you, Stacy, for such a great introduction, and I cannot tell y'all how excited I am to see so many people sitting in here. This just warms my heart. And so I wanted to also say thank you for all of the wonderful speakers that are here. I am so thrilled to hear every little thing they have to say. This is great stuff to take home to your own communities, your schools, your families. And so I'm just so thankful to be a part of it. Okay, so I also wanted to let you know that I am not usually a public speaker. I say this is something I don't do on the regular, okay? So back home we have a little saying about me that I have other gifts. So I'm going to rely really hard on my notes, okay? And this is for your benefit and mine. I've got a lot of information up here and a lot of passion right here, and I want to be sure that we cover every little bit, okay? So let's get started. How did I wind up here? Well, first of all, I wanted to let you know that my story is probably very similar to a lot of you. About 3 years ago, I had my kids in public school. One of them had the sex ed class and yada, yada, yada. And if you are sitting in here and cannot imagine what happened, I'm just going to say that that class was not your mama's sex ed, okay? And it did not land on us very well. And as a result, just like any good parent would do, I went to our school administration with my concerns about that class. And what I didn't expect to happen was for them to tell me that I was the only mom in the whole district of 87,000 students to have a problem with it. And that they had been doing that program for years, and I was the first one to come in that door. And I'm going to say, honestly, the way that they spoke to me, it was pretty hostile. And so instead of me trying to fight them right then and there, I went home, and like a good little Texan, we've got this little saying down there, SAR. Something ain't right. Okay? Can any of y'all relate? Yes. Okay, I bet everybody in this room has a story kind of like that, okay? Every one of you has been impacted by something, at least one of the things that we're going to talk about today, and we're covering a lot, okay? It totally happened to me, and it is happening a lot. Something ain't right, y'all. Something ain't right. I got to say that once this stuff hit my house, it became a very big part of my life. And you can ask my mom. She's sitting right over there. She'll tell you all about it, okay? This affected my kids. It affected my friends, my community. And I have got to say that in the heat of the moment in front of those school administrations, that I decided that I was not going to sit on the sidelines and watch something happen, okay? So, thanks. And I have to say, I got to encourage you, standing up here, if I could do it, so can you, okay? And that's what I want to come and tell you guys. So what I did was I went home and I started digging, and I cannot tell you the crazy stuff that I found, okay? This is a lot. And what I've been doing is trying to put it together into a consumable product that you guys can use. So this, I want y'all to pay a lot of attention to. Take pictures, write a note, take this home. I want you to do something with it, okay? So are y'all ready? We're going to buckle our seatbelts because some of this is kind of crazy. All right. All of this stuff, and I mean everything that you are seeing in schools right now, has been done by design. And make no mistake, y'all, we are at war, whether we want to be or not. And the end game of it is to demoralize you. It is to dismantle your family. And it is to destroy the hearts and minds of all of our children. Okay, this is serious. What we're witnessing around us now is the culmination of a well-planned, coordinated attack on our morals, our values, and our way of life. In the art of war, Chinese General Sun Tzu says, it is more important to outthink your enemy than to outfight them, okay? So ladies and gentlemen, it is time for us all to start outthinking them so we can do something. Let's begin. So what I want to show you is up here on the website. This website right here is what I'm going to call the Playbook. And the reason I'm calling it that is because this is where you can find a lot of information. It is essentially the play-by-play plan of the organization that is the driving force behind comprehensive sex education and other issues that are rolling out across the United States right now. Okay? So y'all can start working on opening that, and while you do that, I'm going to tell you some things behind the scenes. Before we dive in, we're going to look at some of the details of this playbook, and I'm going to take a moment and step back in history and talk about this very powerful organization called SECUS. And Suzanne talked about this at the very beginning, okay? This is the same organization that is now calling themselves Sex Ed for Social Change. What I want you to know about them is that they are a nonprofit and they're a leading organization in the industry of sex ed, and it is dedicated to affirm that sexuality is a natural and healthy part of life, which I think we could all probably agree with, okay? However, what they're doing is they are developing and they're collecting and disseminating information and promoting their version of what sex ed should be all over the U.S. SECUS was founded in 1964 by a lady named Mary Calderon, who at that time was the medical director of Planned Parenthood. What I thought was the most interesting in total about this SECUS organization is the pillars that it was founded on, okay? I call these the toxic trio. So SECUS began from first the philosophy of Margaret Sanger. She was an American birth control activist, a sex educator, a writer, a nurse, and she established organizations that later evolved into Planned Parenthood. The second is the science of Alfred Kinsey. And he is best known, if you don't know him, he is best known for his research on human sexuality. His research claimed that children are sexual from birth. And his scientific trials and observations were callously performed on infants and children who were subjected to sexual acts with pedophiles. The criteria to measure sexual responses for those children were things like crying, writhing, recoiling, and screaming. That is not science. That is unforgivable, horrific child abuse. This guy, he later went on to establish the Kinsey Institute to continue his work. And it is located in Indiana University, and it is still in operation today. It remains a contributor to comprehensive sexual health education efforts. And lastly, no organization can be successful without funding. In the early years, SECUS was financed by none other than Hugh Hefner. This man was known as the general of the sexual revolution, and his legacy is rife with the destruction of modesty, the destruction of marriages, and ultimately the destruction of families. So let's be clear. Anytime that your teachers, your administrators, your schools, or school boards try to tell you that comprehensive sex ed is based on science, SECUS is likely where their supportive data is coming from. This is an organization that was created on the shoulders of a eugenist, a pedophile, and a pornographer. So let's keep in mind, when you are told things are based on real science, and you will hear it a lot, if you get active and go up to start talking to people, you'll hear that. Just remember that that is not what that necessarily means, okay? So we're going to go back to the playbook. Did y'all have an opportunity to get it pulled up? So, oops, my slide skipped, sorry. What you're looking at is the CDC dash. And so I'll say it out loud since my slide slipped. It's www.cdc.gov. Then you do / healthy you, thank you, / about, okay? Yep. So they put it back up. Thanks. Okay. So what I wanted y'all to see, it's a huge website. It has got so many things to look through. It is not a one-pager. Okay. But what I want y'all to do is y'all can start scrolling down if you've got your phone on or your laptop, and I want you to see there's a little video at the bottom, especially you guys that have been actively fighting comprehensive sex ed. They have a video. It's called Their Future is Our Future, and I borrowed their little artwork here. So if you spot that video, okay, now don't watch it now because you'll distract me, okay? But I want you to go home and watch it because it starts putting a lot of pieces together for you, okay? Now, the CDC Dash, this is an organization we're going to talk about from now on. It's been in operation since 1988. And some of you sitting in here may remember some of its early beginnings with things like youth surveys or school-based health clinics starting to open, sex ed, and some other things. And what that was they were all laying a foundation for the processes and policies and partnerships that are being used today. Their programs involve the strategic use of your taxpayer dollars, okay? And one of their programs in particular is responsible for the never-ending barrage of comprehensive sex ed programs that are now crisscrossing the nation. It is not just an Oregon thing, you guys. This is national, and this is who's behind it. So, let's do a quick overview of the money trail that's been used over the last decade to do this. Let me get to the next slide. So, in 2010, you guys paid in your federal tax dollars. You'll see that coming down. Okay. What they did is those went to the federal government down there. And then our then President Obama signed a Consolidated Appropriations Act, and he sent those funds to the Health and Human Services Department. Okay, and just a little note, I want y'all to know that the Biden administration this year just appointed Dr. Rachel Levine as the new Assistant Secretary to the Health and Human Services Department, and he is a transgender woman. Okay, so those dollars went from there to the CDC, which has also got included in it the Division of Adolescent and School Health, and in cooperation with the Department of Education. Let's see if I can get it to go over there. There we go. Mind you, is also funded by your taxpayer dollars. A series of grants were created that required that partnerships were made with taxpayer-funded health departments and public schools. So we're watching a little cycle of your money starting to work against you, okay? All together with some strategic, synchronized support. The CDC, Division of Adolescent and School Health, set out to accomplish 3 things. Okay, let's get ready. It should come up. There. Okay. These 3 things, they are going to implement Comprehensive Sexual Health Education, or y'all might know it as CSE. Then they're going to create access to sexual health services, or SHS. That's next. And ensure safe, supportive environments. Y'all have probably heard about this. And it's SSE, okay, to do all these things. So we're going to drill down a little farther into the playbook and tell you how they did this. So your taxpayer-funded dollars went to the grants that they created, and these were awarded to school districts that got chosen based on applications and eligibility. So back in 2013, they've been at this for a while now, the CDC picked 17 school districts to receive these grants. And Fort Worth ISD, where I am from, happened to be one of those. So, and that, by the way, is, you remember I went to them to talk to them about how bad this all was? That is what was going on when I went. So our district was chosen specifically for the purpose to study the process of choosing a sex ed curriculum and implementing it. Their goal was to create a successful example process for all other school districts in the United States to follow going forward. So this playbook, this is what they're going to do. This is the end game, okay? This is how it worked. I'm going to show you again. You remember your taxpayer dollars came down? We're going to watch how it played out now. Those tax dollars went to the CDC and they were turned into a grant. Oh, and it's stuck. Let's see. There it goes. Okay. Turned into the grant, and they got awarded to our district in that little, you see that handshake? We're going to call that's the partnership they've made. Okay? And that agreement got signed by our school board. And I know some of y'all in here are either actively on school boards or running. So this is how this gets in. So please watch what you're doing and be our gatekeepers, okay? I know y'all are here trying to learn about this, and this is how it happens. Okay, so that agreement got signed by the school board, and after that, they appointed something called a School Health Advisory Council. And if you don't know what that is, really quick, those people are appointed by the school board to be the decision makers about what actually gets in the school. And I'm going to tell you that these school boards are very strategic about who they pick out to be on that thing, okay? They'll tell you that it's fair, and it is not. And what they did, this council, they agreed to do some what's called youth risk behavior surveys. And when you start hearing kids talking about, I filled out this thing at school and they're asking me all this weird stuff, that's what they're talking about, okay? And then that same council was reviewing curriculums in order to choose one curriculum, okay? And this happened at our school. And they also agreed to make partnerships with local taxpayer-funded health departments, just like we talked about before, and other community-based organizations like Planned Parenthood, okay? And I hope I've got y'all still with me. So the CDC- used the processes and policies and partnerships created, and they created framework to implement sex ed. And this is the same process that they use later to create access to sexual health services. This plan also includes the assurance of safe, supportive environments to do this. So if you've gotten the impression that the CDC- has the ability to get some sex ed curriculums into the schools through a seamless process, did y'all see how easy that was? You are correct. During my research, I happened to find that in the case of Fort Worth ISD, that this process was actually a little too seamless. So you see that School Health Advisory Council was given a very specific process to follow to adopt this curriculum. So I'm going to show you how this worked. The CDC- that's the playbook, remember, they gave our district a tool, and it is called the HECAT, which is actually a health education curriculum analysis tool. And in order to develop that, they hired an expert, a sexpert is what they call them, hired by the CDC, and her name was Dr. Susan Tilgen. They hired her to create this tool, okay? And the tool was intended to objectively measure health curricula to ensure that the most effective, or we can call evidence-based, science-based curricula gets chosen. And that out of about 120 curriculum that were available at the time to choose from, one in particular rose to the top. And it was this one, and it's called Health Smart. And this curriculum is published by a publishing company called ETR in California. And this curriculum was written by a sexpert, and her name was Dr. Susan Tilgen. Okay? So, since Fort Worth ISD was the very one district chosen by the CDC- to receive this grant funding so that the CDC could observe this process, what they're doing is measuring how this is done. They're creating the process, mind you, for the entire United States, okay? They sent us a consultant to make sure that all the processes were followed well. They wanted to make sure that there was no veering from scientific process. They sent us a consultant who happened to work for ETR in California, and I'm wondering if anybody in here could guess who that might be. I thought so. Okay, there she is, Dr. Susan. Okay, now, one little nugget that I like to tell people about at this point is that Dr. Tilgen is a graduate of Indiana University. Does that ring a bell? Okay, y'all are tracking with me. Okay, you got it. So all this to say, let's be clear. If you're hearing from your teachers or your administrators or your school boards, if this stuff is all super scientific-y and evidence-based and necessary, there's data to support that we need to be doing this, all of it. Just remember that just because they tell you that it is, does not mean that that is true. So we're going to rewind what the CDC-Playbook has in it so you can know their next steps, okay? I want to give you all a heads up. They have 3 strategic goals. We just talked about it. So remember, their main thing is to do 3 things. They want to implement sex ed across the United States. They want to create access to sexual health services in the schools. And they want to do this in a safe, supportive environment, okay? And what I want to tell you in layman's terms is they're going to teach it, they're going to get the kids access to it, and they are not going to tell the parents anything about it or let them do anything about it, okay? Are y'all starting to get a little something here? Yeah, okay. All right, and if you don't have that yet, just wait, because I'm about to show you a map. So what you're seeing here is this is what started back in 2013. And we're going to roll back to the beginning of what we talked about, the money trail. Okay, I want y'all to see what this ultimately looks like. Your federal tax dollars go to work, okay? And they landed in the Health and Human Services Department. They got sent down to the CDC and the Division of Adolescent School Health. And from there, they got distributed to 17 districts. There's actually more pictured here, but there's 17 of those got those grants to implement the sex ed. And when they were telling us that we're doing this for a scientific reason, oh no, remember what we learned now? Where's this stuff coming from, okay? Now, that's the first thing that they did. And starting in 2018, there was another set of grants that have been distributed or awarded, and that they are now in process of creating the process of sexual health services access, and they're doing things like this. Watch where they're sending those kids now. Okay, and all over the U.S., we're going to see the same thing. This is what I want you guys to grab onto because it is the same process all over the U.S. Here in Oregon, Washington, all the way across the coast. This is their end game, okay? And what this means right now is that kids that are minor children in public school can and will have access to things, and these are just some of the things: birth control pills, condoms, IUDs, hormonal implants, tests and treatments for STIs, emergency contraception, pregnancy testing, and referrals. And I bet you can't guess where they'll send them, okay? Now, there's something I want y'all to see. You can see California out there. Guess what? That is the Los Angeles Unified School District, and they have already used this program to open Planned Parenthoods inside of schools. It has already happened, okay? Now, can we talk about Planned Parenthood for just a sec? I know a lot of y'all know who that is. I'm just going to kind of wrap this with a bow. In fiscal year 2019 and 2020, Planned Parenthood performed 354,871 abortions. Now, they are fully aware that over the last several years, I just have to take a minute. Many states have considered or they have passed heartbeat bills or pro-life legislation. So during those years, they have been actively and aggressively changing their business model to include the very lucrative gender modification therapy and treatment. So, have you ever wondered why there is a push for LGBTQ inclusion and acceptance in public schools? Do you realize that the ongoing lifetime hormonal therapy and surgery costs of transitioning are in the tens of thousands of dollars? Along with sexual health services and treatment, the revenue possibilities here are astounding. Do the math. There are approximately 50 million public school students here in the U.S., and they are the perfect target market to become Planned Parenthood's revenue-generating model. So can you guys see what this is really about? This is not about educating your kids. This is not about acceptance. This is about money. This is about child abuse. It is horrific, okay? And now you guys know. And I'm going to tell you, it keeps me up at night, and I just can't not talk about it, okay? So that's what's gotten me all the way here to see you, okay? You guys are holding the playbook now. This is the whole framework, and it is all in there. And you can all use this. If I could figure it out, I know you could figure it out. Learn about these strategic goals of what they're doing. They have outlined their plans clearly, and the future that they think belongs to them belongs to you and your kids. So you need to stand up, okay? Yep, it is time to take this and improve your strategy. And I want you to use this stuff to get engaged and get people involved. I'm going to show y'all just some little things you can do. This is easy. Y'all are smart. You're here, okay? You're smart. That's what got you here. There's some keywords up there that just tell you, hey, if I'm hearing these things in school board meetings, if I'm seeing this popping across a proposal of my desk or a school board meeting, especially you school board members, okay, you start seeing those things, that is not about evidence-based science. That's about that plan in the playbook. So I want you to learn it. You can use that to your benefit. Now, what do you do from here? Okay. I want y'all to commit to standing up for your children and stand up for ours, okay? This is something you can do. You already got here on a rainy day, and we all have gifts that we can do. It might not be getting up to speak up in front of people, but you can do stuff. You got a phone? You can call a friend, and you tell them what's going on. I loved what she said over there. Just tell your story. Everybody's got one, and it may or may not be like mine or people you've heard today, but I know you've got one or you wouldn't be here, okay? So tell your teachers, tell your school board members, tell your school board candidates, and we didn't even get a chance to talk about legislation that's coming out behind this, okay? This is all very coordinated. You've got representatives that were elected. I know a lot of them out there now don't seem to represent you, but there's still some good ones out there. You can walk the streets. You can start getting ready to elect people to make a difference. Get out there and do this. You can do it, okay? People are waking up, especially with COVID. People can see this, okay? A lot of people are starting to go, oh my gosh, what's my kid been doing in school, and what have I been doing? How did I miss this, okay? People are waking up. People want to talk about it. They want to do it at coffee. They'll talk on the phone. They'll talk with a text. Anyway, just let them know what y'all have done today. The most important thing is to do something, okay? We are in a war, and it is one worth fighting. Thank you all.
Thank you for watching the Northwest Safe Schools Summit. As you can see, attendees were informed, inspired, and motivated to take action. We partnered with several groups, including Quella Winery, Oregonians for Fair Elections, Western Liberty Network, Pacific Justice Institute, Building Education for Students Together, and KSLM Radio. We are happy you decided to learn more about the issues in K-12 public schools today. It just makes sense. Activism can be enjoyable when you are surrounded with like-minded people. And together, we win. We invite you to visit our website, parentsrightsined.org. Take a look around. There are issues pages just for our state chapters because state laws are different. Join us. Make your voice heard. It's always best when you are with others. Submit the online chapter form. You will also be added to our email list. We help with training, information, branding, and contacts. Like us on Facebook. For the most current news, follow us, comment, and of course, share. Join a PRIE Facebook group in your state or local school district. Subscribe to the podcasts, Parents' Rights Now. These are not meant to be entertaining, but provide valuable information, catching you up on the issues quickly. Would you like to help us? Our mission is possible. We've created a great program equipping parents and citizens with the tools they need to be effective in their local school districts. Join the 12 by 12 Club, our small monthly giving program. All donations are important and appreciated, but we know that you have expenses and family obligations, especially if you're a parent. You can do the most by giving a small amount every month. Just $12 a month will go towards our operational expenses and allow PRIE to host another summit. Parents' Rights in Education is a tax-deductible 501c3 organization. Donate online or send a check to the address shown here. We are engaged in a war for the hearts and minds of our children. The left has taken control of the K-12 government school bureaucracy, using local public schools for distribution centers to change the culture. Their ultimate goal is to annihilate the constitutional republic of the United States by dismantling the nuclear family and destroying the Christian church. Your contributions are more necessary now than they have ever been.